Hi, everybody. I'm so glad to be here with you. Hi to all of you. Thanks for making my holy moments holy moments. And I've been counting holy moments and taking accounting for them. And this class and this little old book is right at the top of it. And almost every place I go now, I find these little books lying around. So people have ordered and ordered and ordered the things. And I've had stories from you about how you got your Holy Moments book that range from somebody you don't even know giving it to you and somebody ordering them for your own groups and things like that. So tonight we're looking at, this is the fourth week of a 4-week series, and this is all recorded and it's all available on the SLC Troy YouTube channel, SLC Troy. It's also available on the marthacreek.com website. And this one will be posted in the next day or two. So the series 4 will be there, and then they'll be there for a month or two probably. And then we'll take them down. I'll take them down and put whatever's the current thing is up there. And you're welcome to listen to them or enjoy them any way that you can. Also to contact me, marthacreek@gmail.com and marthacreek.com, the website, and sign up for the newsletter or enroll and subscribe and get yourself on any mailings there that you want to know what's coming up in the way of classes and things like that. Ron, I can't tell you what it's done for me to see you here today, honey. I don't know how you do it. Reverend Ron Scott is here with us from the Spiritual Life Center up in Troy, and talk about an uncommon stamina. And there you are, Dr. Charles Geddes, jumping up and down the older you get, the newer you get too. You're in good company here with some of these folks, I tell you. So we're looking tonight in this fourth series of this, the fourth week of this. And the topic is possibilities. Possibilities. And the section in the book opened with the story of that it was simply impossible for a human being to run a mile in under 4 minutes. And you've heard this many times, I'm sure. And experts, the ones that know, proclaimed it was absolute arrogant certainty that it could not be done. And the debate went on and on and on until in the 1940s, somebody named Gunder Haig in Sweden ran it in 4.06, 4.04, 4.01. And the 40s came and went without anybody breaking the 4-minute barrier for on and on and on. That was the record for 9 years. So the running experts all, of course, believed this assertion that it couldn't be done. And then somebody named Roger Bannister believed it was possible. And in 1954, while practicing medicine and studying for an advanced degree at Oxford, he ran the mile in 3.59.4, barely under. And of course, that's a seminal moment in the world, and certainly in the world of sports, and he instantly became a legend. His record, however, just lasted. Now, the previous record went on 9 years. His record only lasted 46 days. Because after he had broke this barrier, 10 years later, high school students, not adults, but high school students were breaking the 4-minute mile. And today the world record is 3 minutes, 43 seconds. So since Roger Bannister broke it, more than 2,000 people have run less than a 4-minute mile in competitions. So we know this in theory, that we have not reached the extent of our human mind or the human body. And we also know that we have not reached the extent of the soul. So just like the body hasn't reached its limits, the mind hasn't reached its limits, the human spirit has not reached its limits either. And not even close is what I underlined in this little old book. Not even close. So holy moments may have once seemed impossible. And now we know, those of us that have been at this month know that it's not true. That any moment, any holy moment, one single moment that I set aside my personal preferences, make myself open and make myself available to God, creator, source, whatever you name it, and prayerfully consider what God is asking me to do in this situation, creates one holy moment after the other. So there's no way to have a limit on it. There's no way to know what we can surpass, regardless of how holy it has seemed before. And now the encouragement is, after we've been at this now a few weeks, some of us a few months, some of us, that we make holy moments routine, a practice, if you will. So human beings are capable of incredible things. We could talk all night about that. And you are capable of incredible things. I'm capable of incredible things. And most people will live and die without even scratching the surface of our potential. And I was reading a little book to Hadlin's second grade class. She and me read together a little book called Maybe. And we had fun. The kids were interacting. So every time I said maybe, every time I read the word maybe, they would do a repose of maybe, maybe. So this room full, 20-some little 8-year-olds calling back, maybe, just maybe. And one of the lines in the book was, just maybe you have infinite potential. And this little kid's hand flew up and he said, what does that mean? What does that mean? That I may have infinite potential. So how would you have answered that? How would you answer an 8-year-old? And please don't try to give a right answer or an enlightened answer. Just give an honest answer. How would you have answered a little 8-year-old, enthusiastic little 8-year-old wanting to know, what does that mean, infinite potential? Put it in the chat if you can do that. Just put it over there, or raise your hand. If I can see your hand up, I'll call on you. You can say it here if you want to. Even. What does it actually mean, infinite potential? And where did that idea come to you even? What's the source of that? And then another little line, Diane says, you can do anything you set your mind to. And see, I didn't have the faith to say that to that little guy. I said, you can do almost anything. And that comes from my own work of trying to be 5'6" instead of 5'10". So there's some things I cannot be because I simply am not. So I said almost anything was my answer to him, but I made eye contact with this little guy and it seemed to mean the world to him. And I felt like somehow it was clearly a defining moment to me, and maybe, just maybe, it was a defining moment to him. Denny says, you have the possibility to do anything. Yes, you can do and be anything. Thank you, Karen. Another little line in the book said, what if you're only scratching the surface of your potential? Would that be okay with you? Can you be at peace knowing I just scratched the surface of my potential? And please, no shame and blame and guilt here. Hopefully we've had enough of that to last us a lifetime. But what if it's true that we have not even scratched the surface of our own potential? So just like we explore our physical limits, our intellectual limits, what about our spiritual limits and growing our spiritual capacity? So this section is about soul potential, infinite soul potential. Reverend Ron says you can't be stopped if you're determined to achieve a goal. And that sounds like somebody that's raised kids to me. You know, when you wanted a bicycle and they told you you couldn't get one and you were going to get a bicycle come hell or high water, you had a goal and you were motivated by the goal. So you were scoping out bicycles. You were scoping out how to get money for a bicycle. You were scoping out how to manipulate your parents to say yes to you getting a bicycle. Having a goal and not being stopped and continually moving in the direction of our goals. And that's been a powerful discernment for me over the years. As a powerful spiritual practice to actually ask myself, is what I'm doing in this moment moving me toward my goals? Is what I'm about to do in this moment moving me toward my goals? Thank you, Francis. Francis is quoting, if someone had an incredible power and used it for bad, used it for evil, we would call it horrible, a tragedy, catastrophe. But what's worse, if we have an incredible power that's unscratched, that's undiscovered, that's unexplored, and we actually didn't use the power we had to offset some of that other. So this idea of holy moments is such an idea to simply become aware of what is an option for me that I had not seen before. And I know for me, and some of you, I've heard from you, now that we've heard about holy moments, we're not going to be able to forget it. It has taken root in us. It is somehow, it's growing and expanding in us. So we cannot unhear, we cannot unknow this notion of holy moments. And therefore, it's already created a paradigm shift in us. It's created more than a paradigm shift in me. I said to you, I think last week, I've had some type of cellular effect from this. Like I am changed by this book, this reading, these ideas, this excerpts, and what I have done as a result of it being brought to me. And Reverend Ron Scott, who's on here, got the book first and then sent it out to everybody in our ministry up there in Michigan, ordered enough copies to send it out up there. And by then I'd already ordered a bunch of copies. He went ahead and sent me one, and then I got to give my 24 away to people, and was still doing that as recently as this past weekend. So everywhere we go, every interaction we have, every transaction, interaction, relationship is literally an opportunity to participate in, to cause, to create, to choose this moment to be a holy moment. In collaboration, collaboratory. So one that happened, just one, I've got a list, and I want to hear from y'all, so I'm not going to go into this, but just this past week, I wrote a check for $3,000 to benefit a small rural Kentucky school based on what the principal said they were in current need of. So this is a part of my designated giving. These are part of my commitments to give generously and to give to things that matter to me, and to give to people that I see working hard and consciously and really supporting these kids and helping them and living off of really nominal pay for what they do. And that was on Friday. On Saturday, I got an email that in my mail was a letter from the Internal Revenue Service saying that I had overpaid taxes in 2021 and was getting a refund of $3,300. So what would you call it? So what caused me to do it was not, I had no consciousness of that whatsoever. None. Nowhere on my radar. And I've not gotten refunds from the IRS in that amount ever in my lifetime. So what has been some of your holy moments? Just pause here, put them in the chat or wave and raise your hand, and let's hear from some of you. What would you call a holy moment that you've had? Any example? Including you may have bit your tongue instead of saying something unfiltered that could have been mistaken or hurtful to somebody.
Well, this is unfiltered, but friend of mine's husband was in the hospital last weekend and before that, and he was at church this past weekend with his wife. They sat in front of me on the front row, and I thought they were going to make out right there. They were so happy to be together. It was so sweet. It was just, you could just tell they knew they'd really missed a big problem.
You mean expressing their gratitude for life and for living?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. They were thrilled. They were. I mean, it's just it. I mean, you know that when something happens and turns itself around for you, and yet sometimes you just forget it real fast. They weren't forgetting it at all. They obviously aren't. They just look at each other with new eyes. It was a holy moment for me.
I can see that, honey. Thank you, Jenny. I hesitated to leave a message. This sweet little friend, Lenore, I leave little voice messages for her here and there. And I was really hoarse yesterday. And I postponed doing my message, which I usually do for sure on a Monday. And I said, I'm a little hoarse and here's my message. And I just went right on with it. And Reverend Ron said her response was, I love to hear her talk. I love hearing her talk. So this part of the mind that would have stopped me from doing it, instead of what is my goal, and moving me in the direction of my goal, which is to leave her a voice message at least every day or two to make some kind of connection for that. So we're living in a world that's in some ways drowning in information, and even in all of that, desperate for wisdom. Desperate for wisdom. So the piercing clarity of this holy moments brings wisdom and clarity to our lives, to our decisions, to our free will, if we have any. And the power of this one idea shines a bright light on a possibility for each moment, which then creates a life, creates a week, creates a month, creates a year, creates a world that we claim, most of us on this call tonight, claim that we want to be part of creating. The idea itself, this is from the text if you're following on page 100. Like an ice cold glass of water on the hottest summer day, this idea of holy moments is refreshingly practical. It's not a theory, but an imminent, practical doing. And the moment you first heard about it, you, at some level of you started seeing possibilities for holy moments around you that you hadn't seen before. And holy moments in the mundane or the routine. and making a decision that I'm going to see this as a holy moment caused and created that. Now, here's the question then for contemplation tonight. There'll be a couple. What is the most powerful thing in your life right now? What is the most powerful thing in your life right now? And whatever was your answer, now you have a decision to make. This idea, whatever came to you as powerful, will you embrace it? Or will you suppress it, depress it, disown it, reject it again? Or maybe dabble with it. Or really go for it. And what would it take? What's something you could actually do to allow this idea of this concept of holy moments as a way of living, as a routine, as a way of being, as a way of life? What's something or some things you could do to move you in that direction? So one of my friends planned a big milestone birthday for her spouse, her husband, and went way, way over and above to book a beautiful place on the beach, view of the mountains, view of the oceans, privacy, a place to walk in nature, hiking, favorite foods, a book of letters from people that were dear to him, all compiled and made beautiful. And a day off work, got people to cover for him, had his phone to be left behind. And she said she was called to put this little Holy Moments book in as a gift from him, for him, although she didn't expect it to mean much, or that he would even be open to it, honestly. And she left to go do some things while he was there with his gifts. And when she checked in with him to say she was on the way back, he said, "I'm a changed man." And she said, "What in the world are you talking about?" And he said, "This little Holy Moments book. I've read it in its entirety since I've been here. I'm a changed man." Now, talk about surprise. And I'm a changed woman. And somebody else could read the exact same book and it just be another book. So it's for whoever's time is now. And he eventually said, when she reflected on all of this that she had done, all of this she had orchestrated, all of this she had made possible for his birthday, she said, "What was your favorite part of all of it?" And I mean, it was elaborate, folks. And he once again said, "That little Holy Moments book was my favorite of it all." So Note to self. This is the idea. This is the potential. You are the person. I am the person. Now is the time. Thank you, Frances. Frances put in there some things that she's doing. What are the consequences? Another reflection question. What are the consequences of not deciding to go in the direction of holy moments creation? If we disregard this or try to, or kind of stay stuck in our older, more painful way, what are some of the consequences? Charles?
Boredom and bitterness.
Boredom and bitterness.
Yeah,
Could it be
yeah,
any
yeah.
worse?
Boredom and bitterness and discontent. And I've just begun, thanks to Deb for giving me the Holy Moments book. And but I realize that uh, I can't begin to fathom all the holy moments in my life. But some of those holy moments, and recently, in particular for me, was not so joyful. It was really about coming to terms that I need to do deeper work on my soul. And, it's so interesting that when we've been in spiritual practice, like I have for over 50 years, that there's no arrival, there's no, I got it. And what I've realized is that some of the deep rooted realities of shame and guilt that are still there with all the spiritual work I've done. And I am now actually, for real, being led to do some outside counseling work on myself because that's a holy thing. And that I want to leave this planet with as much clearing as I feel I have needed or could have done. And so, no matter what age, holy moments may call you to go deeper. And that deeper means doing doing the soul work to clear the insanity that we take in on the race consciousness. And that I just want to keep in practice of living the presence in holiness and love without exception, above all for myself.
Yeah.
So
Thank you, Charles. You're a shining example of it, honey. And for me too, like it's not a tick box exercise. And even the parts of our mind that would say we're done, or, oh yeah, I know that I've already read that book, or
right.
I've been doing this 50 years or something. It's like, that's just a scratch. That's just a scratch in the surface of this potential. That is also a lot that's still in our unconscious about this. Not to mention, this is a perfect segue into this next part then, because it's like living in a world that is filled with distractions, a world full of it. And even an example here, like the author said, when he wants to get his children's attention, he finds himself saying, focus, focus. and how ineffective it is to say focus in a world when there is just a single word, and a word itself that may call them to attention. And most of us can't focus for more than just a second or two with the shape that the mind is in and this world full of distractions. So it seems we all need to heed the warning to actually focus from time to time. And I feel like I want to go back to that story about me giving that check to that school. The holy moment was me writing the check. It wasn't like getting the notice from the IRS. That was another one. But it was like having the means to provide something for that school. It was the response to those teachers to finally get some things that they didn't know how they were going to get. The fact that that letter came was like a bonus. Like I had a holy moment, whether I ever got, and to be determined whether I get the refund or not anyway. So if I actually do, that's another matter. But my holy moment was not that I got a letter in response to that, but it was the fact that I got to be part of making a decision of what Dave Ramsey taught and I follow for several decades now, of telling my money where to go instead of wondering where the money goes. Telling the money where to go, which also moves me toward my goals and how I want to be in the world. So then it's time then for us to live this out, to move from some distractions to more of a focus, living a less distracted life. And it is simply impossible to say that we are going to ignore this myriad of distractions that we live in that are stalking us through marketing, through the media, through devices, through our own mental streams, through, Charles said, the race consciousness. So we're going to have to do something to focus on. We're going to have something. We need something to focus on if we're going to sidestep some of that and not be as much under its seduction and charm and its beckoning and its elusive allure, the tendencies to follow it, instead of like understanding these distractions is really a siren call of culture. And from Greek mythology, sirens were actually creatures, half bird, half woman, who lured sailors to their destruction with the sweetness of their songs. So you can think about distractions, addictions, habits, things that take us away from our goals versus move us toward our goals. And the absolute consequence of that and the infinite potential when we can interrupt that patterning and to say, I'm going to make another choice here. I'm conscious, I'm awake, I'm alert. And that it's at any age, and Charles said it, and many of you on here have said it to me, it is not too late. It's not, I'm not too old. It's never too late to chart a new course for myself, regardless of how alluring and seductive these old patterns are in me, even entertaining, and going from one distraction to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. That still leads us, many of us, including me at times, feeling quite empty and meaningless. Like the life I'm in doesn't have the meaning that I want it to have if I'm not making conscious choices. And I don't want this to be my story. And I don't want my life lived in a tragedy that I'll be at the end of my life looking back going, I wish I had, I wish I had, I wish I had, I wish I had. And it's either we're going to be saying, I wish I had, or I'm really glad I did. I'm glad I did. And wherever that is right now, now's the time to close the gap on that. So now's the time to make a choice, use our own power of choice, free will, discernment, and to understand the power of these, and then to apply this principle of holy moments cause, holy moments creation, holy moments to guide us moment to moment, day by day, towards something that is more interesting to us toward being something that is truer to who we actually want to be in the world. And I was thinking about platitudes and how much I've been dissing platitudes lately and how many I've had over the years, and every day in every way I'm getting better and better. If it's going to be, it's up to me. And so many things I've said over and over and over to myself. And those have power. The affirmations have power. And I had been bypassing plenty of what was in my unconsciousness. So I have been using, and still do to some extent, affirmations and platitudes to distract myself, to bypass what I'm actually feeling, or to bypass something that I may be afraid of. And I don't want to do that anymore either. So I want to hold my affirmations and to be able to say them honestly, and to be able to say them that it's also with my own spiritual self-care, the care of my own soul. And that people that look down on us Pollyanna types are doing so for a reason, because they do not have the same belief that we do. They're in a much different level of discouragement, of despair, of sadness, of apathy, of resignation. And for whatever reason, that's where they are in their journey. And this is the effects of this, the effects of the spiritual multiplication of this, which we looked at last week. It holds the power to be a tipping point for the consciousness of humanity. And the mind may say, but not in my lifetime. It's like, so be it. It may not be in my lifetime, but I'm going to keep moving in that direction just the same. And to be the one that, regardless of what happens, regardless of what I may find in my own Pandora's box or my own unconscious, subconscious, that I can be with that and have discouragement and feel discouragement, and not let discouragement take the lead seat. To keep something in the seat of consciousness besides the discouragement. So just as people desperately need what we are doing here in this class, these last 4 weeks, they cannot be around us and be in our field and in our atmosphere of holy moments as a way of being, as a way of life, and stay discouraged for long. It would not be possible. And if it's not their turn, then they simply won't be with us. They wouldn't be able to bear our encouragement. They wouldn't be able to bear our way of being. It would be too radical, for lack of a better term for it. So what are some distractions? What do you stay busy with? What work do you create for yourself? What do you look back on your day and go, oh my God, did I actually spend 3 hours scrolling through Facebook? And it's like, is that okay with you? If it's okay with you, then it's clean. If it's not okay with you, then it's an insult to your soul. So what are some known gaps for you, known distractions? And how can you be with absolute certainty that there's going to be some skeptics, cynics, critics, people who hate you and your way for no reason, no known reason whatsoever? People will gossip about you, even malign you.
Martha?
Uh-huh. Go ahead, Shaz.
So for me, my biggest distraction continues to be the phone. I just find myself just routinely needing to check texts, emails, and I'm talking about like, I just looked at the phone and I look at it again. And rather than, and it's anywhere, I'm standing in line or I was at the dentist today, and then, there was some downtime. And then I just immediately gravitated to the phone. But I find it very dissatisfying afterwards. I cannot quite describe it. And I know this is it's a double-edged sword. There's a lot of things I do like about it, and I'm trying to find a happy medium with this phone. So, maybe just determined to have a certain amount of time, like, okay, at this time of the day, I'm going to look at it. But, when I do not open up that phone, I notice some nervousness and some anxiety, something I'm going to miss. And I remember the days when I did not have a phone, and I yearn for them. I even have this, I tell my friends, when I'm retiring, I'm just going to get a flip phone or maybe no phone. So there's something there that I would like to explore more, but there's also fear around it. The idea of not having a phone, I mean, and I come from a time when I still had that phone where you dialed, and I just don't know what that's about.
Well, you said it, honey, if you go back and listen to this, that you're afraid of missing something. You're afraid of missing an important call. You're afraid of missing out on something. So this fear, this FOMO is real, honey. This fear of missing out. And for me, it includes things like my family will need me and I wasn't available to them. So as I've gone away to do Vipassana, for example, and mystery schools and Hoffman and all that, it required in the 9-day school for the work, it required you to the standards, the agreements was that you would not have a phone. And that if there was an emergency, your family knew how to get a call into somebody that would find you. And there was a liberation to it, honey, I couldn't explain. And I still can relate, honey, to this and being tied to it. And I even read an article that psychology is calling it, and more like in the millennial generation. But I'm like, no, it's not in the millennial generation. It's in our generation, which is that the phone is serving as a pacemaker. And that you just described it. Without it, I don't have a regular heart rhythm. I'm nervousy and anxious. And I had to interrupt some of the patterns, honey. And I've done all sorts of things over the years to break myself to some degree, which of course these being sequestered for 9 or 10 days at a time was part of it. But I also limited it, that I've got 15 minutes and I set a timer, and it's like, whatever I'm going to do has got to be done in 15 minutes. And whatever I get to in 15 minutes is it. And then it was looking at it, morning, noon, and night. So 3 times instead of 35 times. So you find your way, honey. And if I can uplift you, if I can inspire you to make some of the change, I'm all about it for you, honey. And thanks for giving it voice here, because everybody that'll tell the truth here can relate to. And how dependent how dependent it seems we've gotten on that. Another holy moment. So then I want to take a minute here and have you to write this down, if you will. And even if it's not true for you, just write it down. So in a spirit of exploration, I will not leave my part undone. I will not leave my part undone. So as we decide again here tonight that we will do our part, whatever that is, only you know what it is. I'll do my part, you do your part to bring more holy moments to the world. I will not leave my part undone. I will do my part. I will do what comes to me. So get a sense of an uncommon persistence in you, like a devotion for this. And you know it, all of you know it, like this, there's something worthwhile that gets a hold of us. A delight, a strange delight, a pleasure of some sort. Just knowing that we made a choice, just knowing that we persisted, even through the bad times, even through the hard times, that we still persisted, that we persevered. And that nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful people with talent, full of talent, and still not really successful, or according to their standards. So persistence, perseverance, determination are omnipotent. My friend Jeannie says it as onward and upward. So whatever's happening, like it was a booger. It was a booger. And onward and upward. What can I do? Which is my routine reflection daily. What can I do in this situation? What would be sane, sensible action in the situation I'm in? And then this is maybe our last reflection question. On a scale of 100, 100 being 100%, 0 being not so much, how satisfied are you with your life? How satisfied are you with your life on a scale of 100 being high? And what's a thing or two you could do to dial up the luminosity on that? Even a percentage or 2 or 5. Something I could do to have more meaning in my life is something I could do to feel better, to be more satisfied with the life I have and the direction I'm going in my life is. What's some examples of that? And then the author references, which was very poignant for me during this Holy Week. The parable of the farmer who goes out to sow seeds in his field. And he sows the seeds boldly and generously. And some of the seeds fall on the path. And some of the seeds fall into the shallow, rocky soil. And some fall among the thorns. And some of the seeds fall in the richest, most producing soil there is. A harvest 100 times over what was sown, even though the others didn't grow at all. The author says, for a long time, I thought the different types of soil were different people. But over time, I have grown in awareness and I have become less judgmental, actually. The truth is, most people's hearts have a little bit of each type of soil. We each have the capacity for great good and for thorns. We get to choose. So as you look back on your life, look at who was the sower of goodness into your heart. Who comes to mind? Who comes to mind that inspired you, encouraged you, believed in you? And likely didn't know just what kind of impact they were having on you. So Holy Moments offers us a path out of boredom and bitterness, as Dr. Charles says, out of regret, out of wishing I had, out of righteousness, criticism, complaints. So, without concern for what grows, or when, or if, or how tall, or what the harvest is going to be. And as Byron Katie says, that's God's business. My business is sowing. So decide today, once and for all, that each day for the rest of your life will have a positive impact. Decide to be the difference that makes the difference. Decide that your part, albeit small, however small, will not be left undone. Decide to light a candle. Decide to collaborate with God, with energy, with universe, with source. And decide to share the wisdom of holy moments as far and as wide as possible. And the last words are, and do it boldly when possible. Okay, comments, questions, takeaways. Anything you want to share tonight, this past week, this past month? Carol?
I think you did what you wanted to, Martha. In um, I came into the class today with big deals in the family and the kids fighting one another and upset with me for trying to whatever. And just being here reminded me, wait, I could ask God, what should I say back, rather than trying to figure it out. And then all through the whatever's happened tonight, I also made a decision I'm going back up to my old church in New Jersey at CCL, and I'm going to speak one Sunday. I'm up to do a funeral, and I'm going to bring the holy moments and just give it out and see, and it doesn't matter what. I don't need to make the lesson up from the holy moments. I just need to give it out and see what happens. So all of the things you said have landed, and I'm grateful.
Me
Thank
too. Me too. And Ron, then Deborah. Mhm.
I have watched the 3 prior classes, and I have told so many people that I strongly recommend that they experience the entire series. It is filled with insights and inspiration. And Martha, it's been a wonderful, wonderful class.
Thank you, Ron. Well, and you're the cause of it. It started with you sending me that book.
Well, thank you. I'm so grateful how this came about. A friend gave it to me, and I didn't read it for 2 months. And then all of a sudden I read it, and one day I said, oh my goodness, what have I been missing? This is marvelous.
Yeah, same here. So I'm a changed woman. And you're welcome, and thank you. Deborah.
On last week's class, you asked the question, what gives us hope? And there were various answers, and a lot of people said nature or flowers or, outside. And the day after class, I prepared a cup of tea, and the little, paper thing at the end had this quote: "The plants have enough spirit to transform our limited vision." And it just spoke to everything holy to me. Transformation and coming from a limited to a very expansive vision. And the quote was by Rosemary Gladstar.
Thank you, honey. I swear that's like the thing, that's a go-to for me. And I've got these amaryllis bulbs that I've had over the years, and I've tried them, let them go dormant, put them in the ground, put them in a pot. And then this year I just said, I'm gonna put them in a pot and just see what they do. And they grew real tall. I cut them off. They grew tall again. I'd cut them off. Then I decided just to let them grow and do what in the heck ever they wanted to do. And I water them once a week, which all the plants that know if they're going to survive in this house, that's what they got to deal with. And I went over there today, and there's one with a stalk and a bloom ready to open. Now there's 8 of them, 8, and there's one with this bloom ready to come. And it's like, I'm just water once a week, see what happens. So hope. And somebody called me this week a hopeaholic. And that's all right. That's all right. So if we're going to have an ism, let's let it be that one. Hopeaholism. So, Sue.
Thank you. So, Martha, it was a holy moment for me yesterday. I was a presenter at a holistic nurses symposium for 150 guests, and I spoke about holy moments. And I just thought there's 150 more nurses who know about it, and holistic nurses who are all about love and hope and everything else. And I, as you know, I'm in Peru, so I ordered 12 books and they arrived to Mom's place a few days ago, and she opened the box and read the book right away because, you know, she's 85 and sitting there and have time. And then my sister came over and she gave her one. And I just said to Mom, just keep the box open and just keep handing them out. Whoever comes and visits, get them out there. And I'll order more if you can get rid of that 12 before I get there in May. So anyway, holy moments for me. Thank
Indeed.
you.
Beautiful to witness, honey. Keep ordering them. You know, there's no limit to these things. Just keep ordering them. Yeah. Yeah. Keep handing them out. Francis?
I want to say thank you, and I wrote myself a Post-it note. I will not leave my part undone. Thank you, Martha.
The group says amen, honey. Amen. Yep. We're part of a club. We're miracle makers here. Yep, I believe. And we'll make all we can. Yep. All right. The clock says it's time to begin. So Holy Moments begins again and again and again. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your donations, your contributions to this. It'll be posted on the SLC YouTube channel and on the Martha Creek website. Go listen to them, send them out to others, get the books, do whatever you can do, and cause the holy moment life that you're called to. And thanks for being a part of my holy moment life. All of you, each of you, you're so dear to me. Oh.
Thank you, Martha.
You're welcome. For my part, you're welcome.
Love you.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you, everybody.
Precious. Bye.